Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today, we're talking with DJ Hasler, Strategic Account Manager for Xantrex. DJ, how is everything in your world? How are you still supporting all your customers and trucking clients through all the uncertainty right now?
Yeah, it's definitely a different time, but things are going well. Staying busy and staying healthy, so can't complain. The industry still been very busy. Obviously, truckers have had to keep all the stores and everything stocked. So as far as interaction with fleets, it's been a little different. Obviously, not any person to person right now, but a lot of WebEx and Microsoft Teams and Zoom calls just like this.
Right. No, I appreciate you letting me add to your hectic video schedule, I'm sure. So today we're talking about supplemental solar power for trucks and going into details there. And I'm excited to talk about this because it's something we've been hearing about for a good couple of years. It's been growing as a trend. The technology has been developing and the possibilities and applications there. So we're going to take it down to a bare bones example, kind of an explainer of how this works, what's available, and what kind of expectations I could have as a fleet for putting this into my trucks, right? So let's just start there.
Sure.
The solar power basics. Can you walk me through the use cases and how the technology works and where I see the benefit there?
Yep, absolutely. So I think the most basic and number one reason why a lot of fleets have moved to it is just to avoid battery draining, extend the life of their batteries, and avoid jump starts. These sleeper cabs specifically, but a lot of trucks just have so much parasitic draw on them due to all the electronics and different features that you can spec on a truck these days that there's actually a term for it. They call it lot rot. Sometimes for a brand new truck, we'll sit, at the OEM for a few days, and then it goes to the dealer's lot for a few days, then it can sit there, and then maybe even go to the fleet's lot before it's actually driven. You have a brand new truck, and you go to start it up, and the batteries are already dead. So one of the main reasons is just for that. So eliminating lot rot, so all the parasitic loads aren't pulling the batteries down. And then same thing for if it's parked for a weekend or having service, and it's sitting in a service lot for a while, just to keep those batteries topped off. So that's kind of the first use. And then, some of the larger systems that are more of the anti-idling really do extend the runtime for hotel loads. Electric APUs really increases their life, eliminates jump starts completely, reduces auto starts by quite a bit. Depending on how big you make your system, you can eliminate auto starts as well. And all those things just add up over time. Less auto starts is obviously less fuel, but it's less on your whole electrical system. So less for your alternator, less on your engine, and it really does, pay for itself quite quickly.
Right. Very cool. Well, and I love the lot rot example, especially as through the pandemic and even early on, a lot of fleets, some were working. One of the fun quotes was that they hadn't run trucks that long since the 1970s, and then depending on your fleet, you look at what happened to construction. They had trucks just parked against the fence for a really long time, right? And hopefully they're getting back to work and starting to roll out now. But even then, that's kind of a cool use case to make sure that your trucks can start, because there's nothing worse than being excited to get back to work and then the truck's not starting.
Sure.
So within those two examples, can you walk me through the technology? What kind of components would I expect to add to the truck to do the one to make sure the startability, and then what are the options for the APU? And I know they're related to lithium ion batteries and those capabilities there. So what's available in the market, and what can I expect to choose from?
Sure, yeah. Just like anything, there's quite a range depending on the fleet's need and what their power requirements are. One popular panel is actually nice and easy. It's a small, what we call dash mount panel. And whether it's ours or there's some other ones in the market, anywhere from 20 watts all the way up to 40 watts or so. And it literally just sits on your dashboard if your truck's going to be sitting for a long weekend, and plugs right into your 12-volt port, or you can use ring terminals. And its main job is basically just to maintain the batteries and to offset that parasitic load so that your truck's going to start when you get back in it on Monday morning or whatever the case is. That's one of the misconceptions when we talk to fleets a lot, is they think solar is going to power everything, which that can be done. Whether it's the roof of a 53-foot trailer, you have a lot of real estate there, and you can get a lot of panels on there. But for the most part, you're really just trying to extend your runtime from your batteries and your service life of your batteries. You know, as your batteries slowly discharge, that all continually adds up to more cycles on your batteries. And solar, I mean, especially in this market, I mean, we're not far away from a solar panel being on every single truck, whether it's a small battery maintainer or a larger to help, you know, power a sleeper.
Wow.
And
Oh yeah, go ahead.
and then the larger systems are more of what we would call like an anti-idling system, and that would tie in together with the electric APUs. And you're really just trying to make sure that the truck doesn't have to auto start overnight or just in very rare conditions. So the truck's auto starting in order to recharge that battery bank, and adding, you know, considerable amount of solar on the roof, you can really help offset some of that load and get through the night without auto starting. And when you asked about lithium, and that completely changes the game to where you're no longer reducing it, you're eliminating idling, you're eliminating auto starting during the hoteling periods with the truck. You know, lithium, you can get away with half the size, 1/5 of the weight, and it pretty much doubles your runtime. So it's quite a new technology in this market, but it's something that we've been doing in RV for a few years, and it really just does change the game for your hotel loads when you're using an electric APU.
Okay, interesting. Well, and what's amazing to me and some of those things there is just, I guess, my realization of how far solar technology has come, right? Because at least on first glance, I think, oh, how much power
Sure.
could I really pull there? What's been your experience, even in the past 2, maybe 3 years, of how this has developed and what you've seen, how you've seen the growth in the market respond to it?
Yeah, you know, most of the time fleets don't think, oh, I need solar or I want solar. That's obviously changed here in the last year or two. But then you start talking to them about what are your issues, and battery issues just do come up a lot. And you say, well, here's why solar makes sense, and you kind of put the two things together. You know, the flexibility of the panels has changed a lot. Actually, now something new that's even more recent is the amount of heat it can take. We've seen some that are now have the technology to put them on the hood. So even though you have that engine heat, still the adhesive is strong enough to keep it, which is something new. But I think the most important thing on the flexible panels is their durability, but also the amount of power that they can capture and output even in lower light conditions. Generally, you think, oh, it's kind of a cloudy day, or I might live in this region and I'm not going to get much power. That's really changed in the last couple of years.
Because that was kind of my next question. Like, is this a regional thing, right? I mean, do you have an example of that? Or I mean, I'm in Northeast Ohio, so we get some pretty brutal winters as well.
Sure. Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, if you're in an area, obviously, the more sun you get, the more power you're going to get. So
Okay.
that hasn't changed.
Right.
But the quality of the cells and the technologies of how they've built these cells have really changed how they can capture them. And it has to do with how they've put their bus bars in and how they capture the light and actually reflecting the light within themselves. Putting it on a curved roof also helps instead of just straight across the trailer. And that's all pretty new stuff here within the last few years.
Okay. Yeah. No. Very interesting. From a fleet point of view, if I'm shopping around for these, what are kind of some of the questions I should be asking? Can you give me some fun jargon or functionality that I should be asking people
Sure.
I know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah. So one of the main, obviously, the first questions they're going to ask is how big of a panel do I need? How many watts am I going to get out of it? That has to do not only with the size of the panel, but the quality of the cells, the different types of cells there are, and then also what type of charge controller you use. Some are more efficient than others. There's a couple different technologies there. And then also the installation. That's one thing that's very cool about the dash panel is that there's no installation. You set it on your dash and just plug it into your 12-volt port, or there's a couple other options. And then also our extremely flexible panels are peel and stick. So it's kind of a DIY. Obviously, you have to clean the surfaces and do a lot of prep work to make sure it works, but they're legitimately peel and stick right onto the roof of your truck, can handle a very steep contour, and they're rated for like 150-mile-an-hour wind tunnels, and can really stand up to the elements.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Very cool. Very interesting. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to shine a light on solar. Hey, no one, sorry, I couldn't resist the pun. It's due.
I should have worn sunglasses.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your future is bright. I really appreciate you taking the time. Really interesting stuff. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon to dive into some more complex use cases with this.
Excellent. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one.